The decade of love was a carefully woven deception. The model husband and a close confidant were actually demons sharing my life. On our wedding anniversary banquet, I stumbled upon their decade-long affair and malicious schemes. As the truth cuts through the gentle facade like a sharp blade, I choose to remain calm and lay a net. Watch me take back everything, bankrupt the scumbag and throw him in jail, disfigure the evil woman and make her blind, and turn everyone against her. This revenge is destined to be brilliant. Ethan really spoils me. I raised my champagne glass, beaming at the guests. Our Yen Corporation is thriving under his management, and I only need to be a useless wife, enjoying life. Today is my 10th wedding anniversary banquet with Ethan, held in the garden of our own villa. Guests are gathered, dressed elegantly, and the air is filled with the scent of champagne and roses. Ethan stood beside me, a perfectly affectionate smile on his handsome face, his arm around my waist, cooperatively adding, "Marrying Emily is the luckiest thing in my life. She is my muse, my spiritual pillar." A wave of kind laughter and blessings arose around us. Slightly tipsy, I leaned against him, enjoying the seemingly perfect scene. 10 years of marriage. Ethan is handsome, wealthy, gentle, considerate, and successful, managing the company my parents left behind in an orderly manner, even expanding its reach significantly. I am Mrs. Yen, envied by everyone, and my life is as smooth as a carefully written fairy tale. I swirled the liquid in my glass, my gaze sweeping across the crowd and landing on 2 old college classmates in the corner. They were whispering to each other, looking at me with a strange smile, a smile that vanished in a flash, so fast that I thought it was an illusion. Perhaps they think I'm being too high profile. I indifferently withdrew my gaze and continued to play the role of the happy wife. After all, my happiness is real, isn't it? Halfway through the banquet, I felt a little dizzy, so I said hello to Ethan and went to the restroom on the 2nd floor alone. The villa has excellent soundproofing, but the bathroom is located near a secluded terrace. Just as I was about to push the door open, I heard hushed conversations coming from the terrace. The voices were familiar. It was my 2 old classmates, Lisa and Sarah. I really didn't expect Ethan and Jessica to be so bold, daring to do this in this kind of setting. It was Lisa's voice, with an incredulous tone. What's there to be afraid of? They'd been together since before college, deceiving everyone for so many years. Their mental fortitude must be well trained by now. Sarah's voice was laced with sarcasm. I saw them getting cozy in the downstairs lounge just now. Jessica's lipstick was all over Ethan's neck. TSK TSK. My blood froze instantly. All the strength in my body seemed to be drained, and I could only desperately cling to the doorframe to keep from collapsing. Ethan? Jessica? My husband? And my best friend? Before college? How is that possible? I only met Jessica in college, and she and Ethan only became familiar with each other through me. Do you think there's really something wrong with those two? Lisa's voice continued, giving up such a good wife like Emily to do this sneaky stuff. And I heard, they might have done it for money back then. Shoo, Sarah interrupted her. Don't talk nonsense. Be careful, someone is listening. But they are indeed quite vicious. Back then, Jessica put in a lot of effort to get on Emily's good side. Isn't Ethan where he is today because of the Yen family's money? I'm really worried about Emily. What if one day, I couldn't hear the rest of the words. The tinnitus was buzzing in my ears, and my heart felt like it was being tightly grasped by an invisible hand, hurting me so much that I almost suffocated. My mind was blank, and the details I had once ignored now rushed to the surface. The unfamiliar perfume scent on Ethan when he came home late occasionally, the overly familiar look in Jessica's eyes when she looked at Ethan, the unspoken understanding between them, and just now, the strange smiles those 2 classmates gave me. So it wasn't just my imagination. My perfect marriage, my 10 years of deep affection, was nothing more than a colossal joke. Not only did they betray me, but they might even be plotting to kill me. A chill ran down my spine, straight to the top of my head. I don't know how I managed to stay on my feet. All I know is that my nails dug deeply into my palms, the pain helping me maintain a shred of clarity. I can't panic. I can't let them see through me. I took a deep breath, smoothed my slightly disheveled hair and skirt, put a proper smile back on my face, and pushed open the bathroom door. The woman in the mirror was pale, but her eyes were eerily calm, frighteningly calm. Back in the banquet hall, the lights were dazzling, the music was melodious, everything was the same as before, but in my eyes, it had become a hell constructed of hypocrisy and lies. My gaze precisely locked onto Jessica in the crowd. She was wearing an eye-catching red dress, holding a wine glass and chatting with people, every smile and frown carrying her usual coquettishness. I slowly approached, pretending to casually clink glasses with her. "Emily, where have you been? Ethan's been looking for you everywhere," Jessica said with a smile, her eyes filled with concern. I stared at her lips. Sure enough, the edge of her lipstick was slightly smudged, not obvious, but unusual for a woman with impeccable makeup. Looking at her neck, there seemed to be a small, unnatural red mark, cleverly concealed by her necklace. "That's the place. Earlier in the side hall, with my husband." A wave of nausea churned in my stomach. I forced down the vomit rising in my throat and gave her a smile that was more like a grimace backslash. "It's nothing, just a little unwell." My gaze shifted to Ethan not far away. He was surrounded by several business partners, talking and laughing, with the air of a successful person. The face I had loved for 10 years looked incredibly unfamiliar and ugly at this moment. Pain, anger, humiliation, countless emotions churned and tore in my chest, almost devouring me. But I can't fall, can't let them see me make a fool of myself. I want revenge. I will make them pay the most painful price for this decade of deception and betrayal. Once this thought arose, it was like a wildly growing vine, instantly entangling my entire heart. My eyes became cold and firm. The game has only just begun. After the banquet, I asked Ethan to sleep in separate rooms, using the excuse that I need to concentrate on conceiving a new art project recently and need independent space. He was taken aback for a moment, then showed his signature gentle smile. "Of course, my artist wife. As long as you need it, I will always support you. But don't tire yourself out too much." He came over, wanting to hug me as usual. I subconsciously dodged to the side, his outstretched hand froze in midair. A fleeting look of surprise flashed in his eyes, but he quickly returned to normal. "Okay, it seems you really need absolute quiet. Then I'll move to the guest room." Looking at his expression, which was without any resentment and even a little indulgent, I just felt nauseous. His acting is so good, good enough to win an Oscar. The first step in sleeping in separate rooms is observation and searching. I need evidence, solid evidence. In the following days, I wandered around the house like a ghost. While Ethan was at work or out socializing, I rummaged through his study, walk-in closet, and even his usual briefcase. I checked his phone call records, text messages, and logged into his frequently used email and social media accounts. Thanks to his unprotected attitude towards me, most of the passwords were related to me, or our common anniversaries. Yet, nothing. He was too careful, or rather, his relationship with Jessica had deepened to the point where they didn't need to leave any obvious traces. The call records were as clean as a new phone. The emails and messages were all work-related, and social media only showed our loving couple daily life. Not finding concrete evidence makes me a little anxious, but also more calm. They must have a mature system for running this underground affair for so many years. A head-on search won't work. I need to change my approach. Since I can't find evidence of the past, I'll have them create new evidence. I dialed Jessica's number and asked her out for afternoon tea. Her tone on the other end of the phone was surprised and affectionate. "Emily? That's great. I was just about to call you. How have you been lately? How's your new project coming along?" "It's okay. I've hit a bit of a bottleneck," I said in a flat tone. "Let's meet up." Same old place, sitting by the window in the cafe, watching Jessica appear on time, still dressed beautifully and smiling sweetly. I felt only contempt in my heart, remembering what my classmates said, that she deliberately approached me for money, to get close to Ethan through me. I couldn't help but sneer. I knew a little about her family background. It wasn't wealthy, but she always had the latest bags and wore designer clothes. I used to think she just had a forward-thinking spending habit, but now I wonder, where did that money come from? It goes without saying. She sat down opposite me and asked with concern, "What's wrong? You don't look too good. Is Ethan neglecting you again because he's busy with work?" "It nothing," I said, stirring my coffee and mentioning it casually. "Oh, right. Recently a friend of mine started a new project in City A, in the field of artificial intelligence. It is said to have great prospects and is looking for angel round investment." I was quite tempted, but I don't understand these things very well, and I want to find someone to advise me. Jessica's eyes lit up immediately, and she leaned forward slightly. "City A? Artificial intelligence? This is the current trend. What project is it? Is it reliable?" Her reaction was completely within my expectations. Greed is the common weakness of her and Ethan. I don't know the specifics either. My friend talked about it very glowingly, but I don't know anything about business. I pretended to be troubled. I originally wanted Ethan to help me take a look, but he has been too busy lately, with a lot of company affairs. I don't want to distract him. Oh dear, I can't miss this kind of opportunity, Jessica said eagerly. Ethan is busy. I can help you take a look. Although I'm not exactly a professional, I know a little bit. Is your friend reliable? Could you introduce me to him? The fish is on the hook. I smiled slightly. Okay, but he seems to be quite busy lately. How about this? I'll ask him first to see when he's available. I contacted my childhood friend, Tony. Tony's family background is ordinary, but he is particularly clever, eloquent, and especially good at playing different roles in various social situations. He can boast without hesitation, yet he can convince people. In recent years, he has opened his own small public relations company and has been doing quite well. I told Tony everything about my experiences and plans. After listening, Tony was silent for a long while, then patted his chest and guaranteed, "Emily, leave this to me. Bullying my sister is a death wish. If I don't screw those two bastards until they have nothing left, I'm not Tony." The plan was quickly finalized. Tony would play a mysterious wealthy investor from overseas, Mr. T, who would express a strong interest in City A's artificial intelligence projects. A few days later, I told Jessica that Mr. T happened to be in City A for an inspection and could spare some time to meet her. Jessica was overjoyed and immediately booked a plane ticket. I accompanied Jessica to City A. Tony put on a grand show. A rented limited edition Rolls-Royce was waiting outside the airport, and the driver was extremely respectful. Then, we were taken to a temporarily rented and luxuriously decorated business center, with various incomprehensible but seemingly high-end charts and a plaque that read XYZ International Investment Group hanging on the wall. Tony, dressed in a haute couture suit and gold-rimmed glasses, looked every bit the successful person, with two assistants in tow. He spoke in broken Chinese, peppered with English words, talking at length about the future of artificial intelligence and the unlimited potential of this project, which made Jessica's eyes light up and nod frequently. "The potential of this project is huge," Tony said with affected gravity. "Preliminary estimates suggest that at least $5 million need to be invested in the angel round. Of course, the returns are also amazing. $5 million. Jessica's breathing became rapid. "Mr. T, I said at the right moment, with a look of embarrassment, "this amount is too large. I have to go back and discuss it with Ethan. After all, he is mainly in charge of the family finances." Tony nodded, indicating understanding. "Of course, family harmony is very important. However, opportunities wait for no one. I am very confident in this project, and there may be other investors joining in the future." I saw a flash of anxiety and determination in Jessica's eyes. I knew she would do everything possible to convince Ethan, and might even use her own stash or encourage Ethan to misappropriate company funds. The first step in luring Ethan into the game is complete. After returning from City A, a trace of unease lingered in my mind. Lisa and Sarah's words rang out again, "They might murder you." I suddenly remembered something. Ethan has been particularly fond of taking my mother and grandmother hiking in the past few years, especially to some more remote mountain forests with poor signal. He said the air there is good and suitable for the elderly to exercise. My mother's legs and feet are still relatively agile, but my grandmother started to show some symptoms of Alzheimer's disease a few years ago. Her memory is sometimes good and sometimes bad, and she needs help to move around. I used to think Ethan was filial, but now that I think about it, it sends a cold shiver down my spine. What if they did something on the mountain, creating an accident? The consequences would be disastrous. No, I must protect my family. I immediately took action. In the name of celebrating my mother's birthday, I signed her and a few of her old friends up for a luxurious cruise long-distance tour, a 2-month trip spanning half the globe. My mother was initially reluctant, but after my persistent persuasion and descriptions of the beautiful scenery along the way, she finally happily agreed. The day I sent my mother away, a weight was lifted from my heart. As for Grandma, the situation is a bit more complicated. She needs constant care, and her consciousness fluctuates. I couldn't leave her with Ethan. After much deliberation, I contacted a distant cousin in the countryside. Her family's circumstances are modest, but she is honest and reliable, and has always had a good relationship with Grandma. I promised to pay generous nursing and nutrition fees, and agreed to visit regularly, asking her to take care of Grandma for a while, telling everyone else that Grandma wanted to go back to her hometown for a while. My cousin agreed readily. I personally took Grandma back to her hometown, and only felt relieved after seeing her properly settled in by my cousin's family. After doing all this, I felt like I had fought a battle, both physically and mentally exhausted, but at least, my two most important loved ones are safe for the time being. Now, I can deal with that adulterous couple without any worries. With my family's safety guaranteed, I began to gather more substantial evidence. Through Tony's introduction, I hired an experienced private investigator. There was only one requirement: to find out all the contacts between Ethan and Jessica, as well as all the assets under Ethan's name, especially those unclear assets that may have been purchased with Yen Corporation funds. The detective was very efficient. In less than a week, the first batch of information was delivered to me. A stack of high-definition photos, all intimate snapshots of Ethan and Jessica in various situations, kissing in a secluded restaurant private room, hugging in the underground garage of a luxury hotel, and even photos of the two entering and exiting a high-end residential area together. They smiled so naturally and intimately in the photos, as if they were a real couple. There was also an asset list. In addition to the properties and accounts we owned jointly as a couple, Ethan had 3 more properties under his name, all in different cities, and all purchased in the last few years. More importantly, the detective found that some of the funds used to purchase these properties were vaguely linked to the accounts of several subsidiaries of the Yen Group. Although it was done discreetly, it was not untraceable. Holding these burning pieces of evidence, my heart calmed down instead. Anger and pain had been replaced by an almost cold sense of pleasure. Looking at the perfect couple in the photos, I even absurdly wondered, after sneaking around for more than 10 years, could this be considered true love? An interesting idea of revenge gradually took shape in my mind. Not just a divorce, not just ruining their reputation. I want them to taste the bitterness of being betrayed by the things they value most. The time is ripe to completely drag Ethan down. In the evening, Ethan came home. Contrary to my usual behavior, I didn't go back to my room. Instead, I sat on the living room sofa, holding a tablet, pretending to study something. "What are you looking at? You / so engrossed," Ethan said gently as he approached. "Oh, I was looking at some materials Tony sent me." I looked up, my eyes sparkling at him, my tone full of excitement. "It's the AI project Insidiae that I mentioned to you. It's amazing. Tony says this is the absolute trend of the future, and getting in now is like printing money." I handed him the tablet, which contained some elaborately crafted PPTs and market analysis reports by Tony. The data was detailed, the charts were beautiful, and it looked extremely convincing. Ethan was indeed attracted. He looked through it carefully, his brow furrowed, as if he were seriously evaluating it. I knew what he was thinking. Deep down, he was a person who extremely craved to squeeze into the real upper-class circle, and labels like high-tech, artificial intelligence, and overseas investment were fatally attractive to him. What's more, there was the temptation of huge profits. "Is this Mr. T reliable?" Ethan put down the tablet and looked at me. "I think it's pretty reliable," I said, taking out my phone and opening a fake WhatsApp chat log. It showed a conversation between me and Mr. T, Tony, discussing investment details, expected returns, and Mr. T's casually revealed strong background and extensive network. "Look, he has a strong background, and he's very optimistic about this project, saying there will be more big moves later. It's a pity I don't understand it very well. Or, why don't you contact him for me? Help me check it out?" I gave Tony's private number to Ethan. Ethan pondered for a moment, a hint of greed and ambition flashing in his eyes, and finally nodded. "Okay, I'll contact him and see. As your friend, I always have to keep an eye on things for you." Watching him pick up his phone, eagerly saving the number, I knew that this greedy fish had taken the bait. On my own and with Tony's strength, it's not enough. I need more allies. I remembered my 2 old classmates, Lisa and Sarah, at the banquet who had strange expressions. They obviously knew something and seemed to sympathize with me. I managed to get in touch with them. We met at a quiet tea house, and I didn't hide anything, directly telling them that I had discovered Ethan and Jessica's affair. Lisa and Sarah looked at each other and both breathed a sigh of relief. "Emily, we've wanted to tell you for a long time, but we were afraid." Lisa hesitated. What are you afraid of? Are you afraid I can't handle it? Or are you afraid of offending Ethan? I smiled self-deprecatingly. Both, probably. Sarah sighed. Actually, there were rumors about Ethan and Jessica back in college, but they hid it well. Do you know? Jessica being in the same dorm as you was actually something she deliberately arranged. My heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? Jessica and I are actually distant cousins. We're not that close, but I know some things. Sarah lowered her voice. Her family isn't well off, and she was determined to climb the social ladder. She knew early on that Ethan's family had some background, but Ethan's goals were higher than. He wanted to find someone even richer. So they reached an agreement to temporarily hide their relationship and go /fishing separately. Jessica's target, from the beginning, was you, or rather, the Yen family behind you. My fist clenched suddenly. So from the beginning, I was their prey. What about Ethan? He was pursuing me. My voice trembled slightly. It's said to be a bet he made with Jessica. Lisa added, betting $10,000 to see if he could get you in a month. Unexpectedly. You really? $10,000. My 10 years of marriage, all the feelings I gave, actually originated from a $10,000 bet. An overwhelming sense of humiliation and anger almost overwhelmed my sanity. I bit my lip hard until I tasted blood, barely managing to control myself. One more thing. Sarah hesitated, but still said it. That Lisa who was with me, her real name is actually Chloe. She is Jessica's cousin. But their families have a very strained relationship due to some things that happened in the past, and Chloe has always disliked Jessica's actions. I looked at Chloe, Jeong Dai in the detailed outline, who hadn't said much. She met my gaze, her eyes complex, but with a hint of determination. A bold plan formed in my mind. Chloe, I looked at her, my tone calm but with an unquestionable force. I would like to ask you for a favor. Chloe seemed to have guessed something and didn't answer immediately. I know you have a bad relationship with Jessica and disapprove of what they do. Now, I need someone who can enter the Yen group and help me get solid evidence that Ethan is using company resources for his own benefit, and who can replace him at a critical moment. I paused and offered my terms. After it's done, 10% of the shares of the Yen group project branch is yours. Chloe's pupils contracted sharply. 10% of the shares is undoubtedly a huge wealth and a chance to cross the class for an ordinary person. Why do you believe me? Chloe asked. Because of your old grudges with Jessica, because you need a chance to prove yourself, and more because, I looked directly into her eyes. I believe in your eyes. Chloe was silent for a long time, and finally, she nodded. Okay, I'll help you, but I need your guarantee that I'm not the next Jessica. I promise. I held out my hand. We are allies, not tools. Chloe held my hand. Core boost, in place, soon. On the grounds that I needed a trusted assistant to learn the company's business, I arranged for Chloe to enter the Yen Group headquarters and placed her directly in a core project team that Ethan was in charge of at the time. Ethan had no doubts about this, and even welcomed it, believing that this was a sign that I was finally beginning to be sensible and willing to understand the family business. He didn't know that he had personally placed a time bomb next to himself. Everything is proceeding according to plan. News from Tony indicates that he is connected with Ethan and successfully baited him with the lure of insider information and high returns. To further enhance the credibility of the scam, Tony warmly invited Ethan and Jessica to visit City A again to inspect the project's progress on-site and meet with several potential follow-up investors. This invitation hit Ethan and Jessica right where they wanted. Ethan craves the approval of Mr. T and wants to squeeze into that high-end circle. Jessica dreams of achieving financial freedom through this investment and completely freeing herself from her dependence on Ethan. Naturally, I am in full support. Go. Such a great opportunity. You must take a good look for me. I even proactively helped them book air tickets and hotels, behaving like a virtuous and somewhat silly wife, watching them packing their luggage together secretly, the excitement and tacit understanding that could not be suppressed when their eyes met. My heart was calm, and I even wanted to laugh a little. Go to the den of luxury I have carefully prepared for you. After seeing Ethan and Jessica off, I immediately dialed another phone number, calling Alex, my childhood friend in City A. Unlike Alex and Tony, he is a straightforward, even a bit rigid guy, from a well-off family, running a sizable technology company, upright, and hates crooked ways the most. Alex, it's me, Emily. Emily? rare guest. What made you think of calling me? Alex's voice was tinged with surprise. I didn't exchange pleasantries and cut straight to the chase, telling him concisely about Ethan and Jessica's betrayal, their schemes, and my ongoing revenge plan. There was a long silence on the other end of the phone, so long that I thought the signal had been lost. Bastard! Alex's voice suddenly erupted, full of anger. Ethan, that ungrateful wretch. And that Jessica. I even thought Ethan was good to you back then. Alex, I need your help now, I said calmly. Tony is setting a trap for them in City A, but Tony's methods are a bit unorthodox. I need someone like you, who is well known and has a positive image in City A, to cooperate with Tony in acting out a scene, to add the final credibility to this scam and completely trap them. No problem, Alex agreed without hesitation. Just tell me what you need me to do. There's no need to talk about morality when dealing with this kind of scum. I'll contact Tony right away and make sure the act is convincing. With Alex's joining, this investment trap targeting Ethan and Jessica will become even more seamless. While Ethan and Jessica were immersed in their get-rich-quick dream in City A, I quietly set off for Jessica's hometown, a remote small town. According to the information provided by Chloe, Jessica's family is simply a bottomless pit. Her father is an old gambler who lost all his family property and still owes a lot of money. Her younger brother is uneducated and makes trouble all day long, just waiting for his sister to send money back. Jessica is extremely disgusted with her family, but she has to send money back regularly to fill the holes, which is one of the reasons why she desperately wants to make money. I found Jessica's home, a dilapidated small building. The one who opened the door was a middle-aged man with a sallow complexion and shifty eyes, who was her gambling father. I was carrying large and small bags of high-end gifts, with an enthusiastic and slightly naive smile on my face. Uncle. Hello, I'm Jessica's best friend, Emily. I just happened to be passing by and came to see you and Auntie. Jessica's parents were clearly not expecting their daughter's wealthy friend to visit suddenly and seemed a little flustered. I walked into the house as if I were at home, surveying the simple and even somewhat dirty environment, sneering inwardly, but praising them incessantly. Wow, Jessica is so amazing. She's established herself in the big city at such a young age, and now she's preparing to invest in a big project with our Ethan. I heard they're investing millions of dollars, and the returns will be incredible. Jessica is really promising. You two can just wait to enjoy your good fortune. I deliberately emphasized millions of dollars, and as expected, I saw a flash of greed in her father's eyes, and her mother stopped what she was doing and perked up her ears. Really? She invested so much money? Her mother asked tentatively. Yes, Jessica has a great eye. I continued to show off in a naive and sweet way. She is very rich now. She usually uses brand names and spends a lot, but that's also true. After all, she earns a lot. Unlike me, I don't understand anything and still have to rely on Ethan. At this moment, a young man with dyed yellow hair and a gangster-like appearance walked out of the inner room. He should be Jessica/S good-for-nothing brother. He looked me up and down with unkind eyes, but when he heard me say Jessica was rich, his attitude immediately changed. Is my sister really that rich? He leaned over and asked. Then why does she only send back so little money each month? Dad/S gambling debts can't even be paid off. Shao Kai. Jessica's mother glared at him, but her eyes were also filled with desire for money. Oh, Jessica must have her own plans. I pretended to smooth things over. She's so filial. She definitely wouldn't ignore her family. Maybe she wants to save up a large sum of money to help the family solve their problems all at once. But seriously, Uncle and Aunt, Shao Kai, you also need to be considerate of Jessica. It's not easy for her to work hard outside on her own, but you should still tell her if you have difficulties. After all, we're family, and we should help each other out. My words implied that Jessica was very rich but not generous enough to her family, successfully stirring up the imbalance and greed in their hearts. Looking at the way their family members were each harboring their own thoughts and their eyes were flickering, I knew I had achieved my purpose. I left those gifts, accidentally revealed Jessica's approximate address and workplace in S City, and then said goodbye. I believe that it won't be long before this family, like leeches smelling blood, will actively seek Jessica to ask for money. I'll wait and see this good show. Returning to City S, I began my next plan, liquidating and transferring my assets. The Yen Corporation is the result of my parents' hard work. Although Ethan is now the CEO, The majority of the shares are still in my name. In addition, I also have some premarital property, including the villa we currently live in, as well as some independent investments and savings. I need to safely strip these assets away, leaving Ethan with no opportunity to take advantage. I found my private lawyer and financial advisor and began to secretly sort out and transfer assets. This is a complex and time-consuming task, but I must do it flawlessly. At the same time, I took advantage of Ethan's obsession with the City A project. "Ethan," I said, holding a document as I went to find him, "I'm a little tight on cash right now and I want to sell the 2 shops you transferred to me earlier to get some cash." "Tony said that Mr. T seems interested in us increasing our investment to take a larger share. I think it's a rare opportunity. Those 2 shops were bought by Ethan with company money in the early days of our marriage and then gifted to me as a sign of love. I was so moved at the time, but now I find it ironic. The property rights of these 2 shops are already in my name, but according to our previous agreement, any major asset changes need to be disclosed to the other party." At this moment, Ethan's mind was completely occupied with the project in City A that could bring him instant success. When he heard that I was going to sell the shops to increase investment, he not only didn't have any doubts but even praised me greatly. "Great, Emily, you finally have an eye for investment. Although the location of these 2 shops is good, their appreciation potential is definitely not as good as the AI project. Selling them to increase investment is the right thing to do. Do you need me to help you contact buyers?" "No need. I've already found an agent," I said blandly. Ethan didn't think much about it and readily signed the document, agreeing to my selling the shops. He thought that this money would eventually flow into the big project from which he and Jessica could also get a share. But little did he know that this was just one step in my plan to transfer funds. The shops were quickly sold, and a huge sum of money flowed through several hidden accounts, eventually converging into a newly opened and absolutely secure overseas account of mine. A few days later, Ethan and Jessica returned from City A full of vigor. It seemed that Tony and Alex had played their parts very successfully, and they were deeply convinced of that gold mine. In the evening, Ethan was in an extremely good mood, even unprecedentedly taking out the guitar he hadn't touched for many years. He sat in the living room and sang to me the love songs he sang to me when we first met, accompanying himself on the guitar. "Emily, thank you for always supporting me and believing in me." After he finished singing, he looked at me with deep affection. "When this project is successful, I will." Looking at his affectionate face, I felt a churning in my stomach. The singing that once moved me now felt incredibly jarring and hypocritical. I forced myself not to throw the water glass in my hand at his face, and just twitched the corners of my mouth. "Well, get some rest." He seemed a little disappointed, but didn't say much. In the days that followed, I accelerated the pace of transferring assets. The most important step was to quietly transfer the largest portion of my assets, including part of the Yen Group's equity and several core properties, to my grandmother's name. Although my grandmother has Alzheimer's, she is legally a person with full capacity for civil conduct, but she needs a guardian, and I am her only granddaughter, so naturally I am her guardian. Putting the assets in her name is the safest way to ensure that the assets are not coveted by Ethan and can be used when I need them. On the day of the formalities, I took my grandmother to the law firm. Grandma sat in the wheelchair, quiet most of the time, occasionally grabbing my hand and calling my nickname vaguely, "Nuan Nuan, be good." At that moment, looking at my grandmother's old and bewildered face, feeling the temperature of the age-spotted skin and the unconscious care from her palm, my tense nerves finally snapped. All the repressed grievances, anger, and pain burst out in an instant. I hugged my grandmother and cried bitterly in her arms, like a lost child. Grandma gently patted my back, still repeating the same sentence, "Nuan Nuan, take care." After crying, I felt much calmer. For Grandma, for the family business left by my parents, and for myself, I must be strong and keep going. Just as my plan was proceeding in an orderly manner, an unexpected assist appeared. That afternoon, I was at home sorting through some files when the doorbell suddenly rang like crazy. I frowned and went to open the door, and standing outside was actually Jessica. Her face was pale, but her eyes held a morbid excitement and defiance. "Emily, we need to talk." She pushed me aside and walked straight into the living room. "We have nothing to talk about," I said coldly. "No, we do," Jessica said, stroking her lower abdomen, a smug smile on her face. "I'm pregnant, with Ethan's child." I was stunned. Pregnant? Ethan will divorce you soon and then marry me. Jessica walked up to me and said arrogantly, "You've occupied Ethan for 10 years. And now it's time to return him to his rightful owner. You're a barren hen who doesn't deserve him at all." Her words were like poison-tipped needles, piercing fiercely into my heart. Anger and disgust made me tremble all over. "You think he'll marry you?" I sneered. "You're just a dog he keeps outside. A plaything he can discard at any time. You're talking nonsense." Jessica was provoked and her voice became shrill. "Ethan loves me. It's always been me. We've been together since before college. You're the pathetic third party." She waved her arms excitedly, spitting everywhere. I subconsciously took a step back and bumped into a freshly brewed cup of hot tea on the side table. The cup tipped over and the scalding tea splashed on Jessica's arm. "Ah!" Jessica screamed and jumped up, scalded. Seeing the red marks on her arm, she instantly lost her mind and lunged at me like a madwoman. "You bitch! You dared to burn me. I'm going to fight you." I was pushed and stumbled, and she herself, because of the excessive movement, lost her balance and fell heavily on the smooth floor. Just then, the villa door was pushed open, and Ethan and Chloe happened to walk in. They saw Jessica, who had fallen to the ground with a painful expression, and the blood slowly seeping out from under her. Chloe reacted extremely quickly, immediately took out her phone, took several photos of this chaotic scene, and then discreetly sent them to a WhatsApp group that included all of our core allies. Jessica had a miscarriage, and I accidentally burned her, and when she attacked me, I caused her to fall and miscarry. Everything happened so fast. Ethan was obviously stunned too. He looked at me, then at Jessica groaning in pain on the ground, at a loss for what to do. "I know. The moment of openly tearing apart our faces has arrived. Ethan, save me, my child. Emily harmed my child," Jessica cried, pointing at me. Ethan finally reacted. He rushed over to help Jessica up, and when he saw the bloodstains beneath her, his face instantly turned pale. He suddenly looked up at me, his eyes complex, with shock, anger, and a hint of fear. "Emily, what exactly is going on?" he questioned sternly. "What's going on?" I sneered. "Your dear mistress rushed over here to force my hand, telling me she's pregnant with your child and wants you to divorce me and marry her. Then, she attacked me like a madwoman and fell down herself." "You're lying. You're the one who pushed me," Jessica screamed. "Ethan, do you believe her? Or do you believe me?" I looked directly into Ethan's eyes. Ethan's eyes flickered. He looked at me, then at Jessica, who was crying in his arms, looking like a delicate flower in the rain, pitiful and lovable. After a few seconds, he made his choice. "Jessica, calm down." He tried to soothe Jessica while looking at me, his tone filled with a hypocritical heartache and accusation. "Emily, I know you may not be able to accept it for a while, but how could you do it? She is still pregnant with a child." "Child?" I interrupted him, my tone icy. "Ethan, are you sure that /s your child?" Ethan's face changed drastically. "What do you mean?" Jessica also stopped crying, looking at me in shock. "It doesn't mean anything," I said lightly, "just reminding you, don't take all the blame on yourself. After all, there are so many stray dogs outside, who knows which one it is." "You." Jessica trembled with anger. Ethan's face turned even uglier. He obviously thought of this too. He couldn't possibly be completely unaware of Jessica's private life. "Enough," Ethan roared, trying to control the situation. "Emily, now is not the time to talk about this. Get Jessica to the hospital first." As he spoke, he tried to push all the responsibility onto Jessica. "Jessica, I told you a long time ago that we were over. Why are you still making trouble? Now it's turned into this." Watching his ugly face, eager to clear himself of responsibility and pass the blame to his lover, I felt utterly disgusted. "Ethan," I said calmly, "let's get divorced." Ethan was stunned, then immediately refused. "No, Emily, I know you're angry right now, but we can't get divorced. We've had so many years together." "Feelings?" I felt like I had heard the biggest joke in the world. "Between us, are there still feelings?" "Of course there are," Ethan said urgently, trying to grab my hand, but I dodged him. "Emily, listen to my explanation. Jessica and I are really just—" "I don't want to hear explanations," I interrupted him. "Divorce, or I'll make public all the /good times you two have had over the years, along with the evidence of your embezzlement of company funds. Choose for yourself." Ethan's face turned completely white. He knew I wasn't kidding. He was silent for a long time, his eyes struggling. Finally, He looked at me as if grasping at the last straw. Emily, as long as we don't get divorced, I'll do anything you want. I can completely break off relations with Jessica. I can. Can you resign? I looked at him and asked, word by word, leave the Yen Corporation and completely give up your current position. Ethan suddenly looked up, his eyes filled with disbelief. Leaving the Yen Corporation meant he would lose everything he currently possessed, status, wealth, power. However, compared to losing his reputation and even facing jail, this seemed to be the only choice. He looked at my cold eyes and knew there was no room for maneuver. A few minutes later, he seemed to have been drained of all his strength and nodded dejectedly, okay, I promise you, I'll resign. Very good. I gave a cold smile. Go through the formalities tomorrow. Before you complete all the handover procedures, I will consider not getting a divorce. Ethan looked at me with a complicated expression, but eventually gave in. Chloe, who was beside him, kept her head down like an invisible person, but the corner of her mouth imperceptibly curled into a smile. Ethan did indeed fulfill his promise with remarkable alacrity. The next day, he submitted his resignation to the board of directors. With my approval, coupled with Chloe's internal coordination, the handover process went exceptionally smoothly. Ethan transferred all powers to my designated candidate, temporarily managed by a senior vice president, while Chloe naturally entered the core management team. Ethan probably thought that as long as he gave up the company, I would change my mind and maintain this long-rotten marriage. He was too naive. On the afternoon of the day Ethan was busy with departure handover procedures and temporarily left home, I called the moving company. The workers quickly and efficiently packed and moved all my belongings from the villa: furniture, artwork, clothing, books, and even the roses I had planted myself. This villa was my premarital property, and most of the items inside were also purchased by me. Ethan's possessions were pitifully few. In just a few short hours, the originally warm and gorgeous home became empty. Only some scattered items belonging to Ethan were left, scattered in the cold corners, appearing particularly ridiculous. After the moving company's truck drove away, I contacted an agent and, as quickly as possible, sold this villa, which held 10 years of my love and hate, to a new buyer who was said to have some background in the underworld and was not easy to mess with, and I demanded that they move in as soon as possible. I just want to make sure Ethan doesn't even have a place to reminisce or linger. That night, I didn't go back to that empty house, but instead checked directly into a newly purchased luxury penthouse apartment in the city center. Standing in front of the huge floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the city's dazzling lights, I breathed a long sigh of relief. People have left, and the building is empty. My first step in retaliation is completely done. Next, it's time to settle the score. A few days later, I received a call from Chloe, who said Jessica was being discharged from the hospital today. Lisa, Chloe, and I went to the hospital together. When we arrived, we happened to see a good show. A crowd of people surrounded the hospital entrance, arguing noisily. It was Jessica's parents and that blonde-haired younger brother. They were clearly there to ask Jessica for money, probably arguing about the miscarriage. At this moment, they were blocking the entrance, cursing at Jessica, who had just completed the discharge procedures and was still pale. You damn girl, you've grown wings, huh? You think you're so great just because you have money? You don't even recognize your parents. Her father spat as he yelled, Sister, how could you do this? What about Dad's gambling debts? The house is going to be taken away. Her younger brother fanned the flames from the side. The surrounding patients, family members, and passers-by pointed and talked, making a lot of noise. Jessica was angry and anxious. Her face became even more unsightly, but she couldn't get rid of her family's entanglement. At this moment, Ethan's car also arrived. He was obviously here to pick up Jessica from the hospital. Seeing this chaotic scene, his face instantly turned livid. I took a deep breath, put on my high heels, and walked straight over with Lisa and Chloe. Oh, what a lively scene, I said loudly, with just the right amount of surprise and sarcasm on my face. All eyes were instantly on me. When Jessica saw me, she looked like she had seen a ghost, her eyes full of resentment and fear. Emily, what are you doing here? Ethan's voice was a little dry. I came to see Jessica. After all, since the child in her belly is gone, I also have a responsibility, right? I deliberately emphasized the pronunciation of the words child and responsibility. My eyes swept over Jessica's greedy family. Uncle and auntie, are you here to see your daughter? Perfect. I also have a few words I want to say to you. I turned to Jessica's parents and younger brother, and said clearly, you may not know it yet, right? Your good daughter has been my husband's mistress for over a decade. It's not even certain if the child in her belly is my husband's. She not only cheated on my husband's feelings, but also encouraged him to embezzle my family's company funds to engage in some investment scams. Now, the investment has failed, the money is gone, and she has ended up like this. My words were like a bomb, exploding in the crowd. Jessica's family was stunned, and the surrounding discussions grew louder. You're talking nonsense, Jessica screamed back, but her voice sounded so pale and weak. I'm talking nonsense? I sneered, took out my phone, and opened a few intimate photos of Ethan and Jessica, as well as photos taken by the detective of them entering and leaving the same residential area. Everyone, take a look. Is this nonsense? The photo was passed around in the crowd, drawing a burst of commotion and scornful looks. Jessica's parents and younger brother looked at the photo, their faces turning extremely ugly. Ethan rushed over to grab my phone, but I dodged him nimbly. Ethan, we're over. I looked at him with cold eyes. The divorce agreement. My lawyer will send it to you as soon as possible. If you don't want to make things even uglier, just sign it. Otherwise, I'll see you in court. After speaking, I didn't look at them again, turned around and left with Lisa and Chloe, head held high, amidst the pointing fingers and discussions. I know that Ethan and Jessica's reputation has been completely ruined at this moment. The development of the matter is even more wonderful than I expected. The day after Jessica was discharged from the hospital, I received a message from the private investigator. Jessica's younger brother, that blonde-haired Xiao Kai, was filmed buying an unknown liquid in a chemical supply store. The detective reminded me to be careful. I immediately strengthened security measures. However, retribution came so quickly, yet so unexpectedly. That evening, the news broke. A young woman was splashed with hot oil by her own brother at the entrance of her residential complex, resulting in extensive burns to her face and body, causing severe disfigurement. Although the news photo was blurred, I immediately recognized that the woman who was rushed to the hospital was Jessica. The person who splashed the oil was her gambler brother, who was completely enraged by his sister's callousness and investment failures. He probably wanted to use something like sulfuric acid, but he made a mistake in the heat of the moment. However, the scalding hot oil caused equally devastating damage. This vicious assault quickly fermented and became a headline in social news. The all-powerful netizens quickly dug up Jessica's identity, as well as all sorts of scandals about her interfering in my marriage, having an affair with Ethan, and even possibly being involved in economic problems. For a time, the internet was filled with condemnations of Jessica and Ethan: mistress, gold digger, nouveau riche, ungrateful wretch. All sorts of labels were plastered on their lives. On the other side, the Cydia scam was also coming to a close. Tony and Alex worked perfectly together, first using various reasons to squeeze out all the funds invested by Ethan and Jessica, as well as the money they subsequently raised through various means, including high-interest loans. Then, at an exclusive private gathering, Tony inadvertently brought them into a casino and lured them into trying something good that can relax people. Although the original text doesn't explicitly say what it is, I know it must be drugs. Greed and despair are enough to destroy a person's sanity, just as Ethan and Jessica lost their last penny, and may even be addicted to drugs, completely sinking into the mire. Tony, according to plan, was accidentally arrested in City A for suspected transnational financial fraud and money laundering. Of course, this was a staged event arranged by Alex using connections, with the aim of completely dragging Ethan and Jessica into the water. As Mr. T's core partners in China and important handlers of financial transactions, Ethan and Jessica naturally became key targets of the police investigation. Transnational crime, money laundering, and possibly illegal fundraising. What awaits them will be the severe punishment of the law and a long prison sentence. Everything has settled. My divorce with Ethan went exceptionally smoothly. He was probably overwhelmed and had no energy to entangle himself further. The day I received the divorce certificate, the sun was shining. I had no regrets, only a feeling of shedding a heavy burden. A few days later, I unexpectedly ran into Ethan downstairs at the company. He looked much more haggard, with messy hair, a scruffy beard, and turbid eyes, no longer with the vigor he once had. When he saw me, he actually tried to step forward, muttering apologies. I just glanced at him coldly and walked away without even bothering to say a word to him. As for Jessica, after being disfigured, her mental state seemed to be greatly affected. She actually ran downstairs to the Yen Corporation and caused a scene, pointing at the building and cursing me and Ethan like a vengeful ghost. In the end, the security guards called the police, and she was taken away by the police. Chloe sent the video of her rampage to the group, which caused a sigh of emotion. 4 months later, the matter in City A was completely settled. After Alex finished the follow-up matters, he returned to City S. I invited him to my new home. Standing in the spacious and bright living room, looking at the bustling night scene outside the window, we were both filled with emotion. Emily, what are your plans next? Alex asked. To manage the Yen Corporation well, I smiled. This is the hard work of my parents, and it can't be ruined in my hands. However, it may be a bit difficult for me to do it alone. I looked at Alex. Are you interested in joining my company? Let_S work together to make it bigger and stronger. Alex raised his eyebrows, then laughed heartily. I couldn't wish for anything more. After some time, Chloe came to me to resign. She received the bonus I had promised her and decided to start her own business. Thank you, Emily, for giving me this opportunity, Chloe said sincerely. You seized the opportunity yourself. I wished her well. Let's keep in touch. Before leaving, Chloe told me the latest news. Oh, right, Jessica. Her eyes are completely blind due to infection. I heard that before she was taken away by the police for investigation, she lost control and pushed Ethan, who came to see her, down the stairs. It seems Ethan broke his leg. I was silent for a moment, without any waves in my heart. Only a faint sigh remained. Evil has its consequences, that's all. After seeing Chloe off, I stood alone in front of the French window, watching the distant skyline. The past events flashed through my mind like a movie, and finally, everything returned to calm. Those who hurt me have received the punishment they deserved, and I have taken back everything that belongs to me, and also found a new direction and partners. The road ahead is still long, but I know that I will firmly move forward, towards my true happiness.